the way I see it, at the end of the event, that everyone's celebrating. There's some win, I guess, projects and such. Um, like the way I see is that each project has like well, I mean, aside from prizes or whatever was won at the end, or I think like each project will have like not a report, like a trackable um, set of things they did during the event. Say maybe they put the project live and it's already being worked with local communities, that they finished the work, and that they had these learnings, that even the team formation process, like all those things from the beginning of the event to the end are like small wins, you could say, and like they were all kind of like locked in place on chain, so that it's visible to see the whole progress of the team formation, uh, work, and even winning, and even putting the project live, like all those things. If like all the process of the team will be completely traceable, you could see, and with the PCs. That's how I kind of see it. The and that would even aid the event in the moment, like if there's some sort of judging or or in general seeing how what's the progress of each team or person or individual. Like there's a level of, I guess, data that is like locked in time uh, during the whole event. I don't know if that was clear.
Yeah, it was great, man. Really great.
Mm.
What is my question, Tabs?
So given those capabilities, that's what we'll technically be able to do. Where is your program design gonna lead us to?
Not every content is the same. So all that data will respond to a learning process. And it can be regenerative, or it can be potentializing, or it can be depotentializing. One of the things that I wonder, though, when we have this control over the content that comes up, is how can we care for that in such a way that it doesn't really feel controlling or constraining? Having said that, it's going to be much easier to see or make visible the learning process of each team.
And what's the learning process gonna say if we can see it?
It depends on how deep the participants go and speak to their communities. That's why not every content is the same.
How deep
Is
in
there
terms of what?
Eh?
Profundo en términos de qué?
In terms of shifting the question, what do I want as a team, to what is needed in this community? What is this community asking of me? What is potentializing within this community? Is a completely different approach. So it can be a regenerative approach or a extractivist approach. And that's what's going to speak most loudly.
To help constrain this, is there a way that you can frame this in terms of a successful outcome? Is there one thing that you can point to specifically and say, if we can do this, then that would mean really success, even if the content's going to be different, even if it's going to respond to the context?
Even if that question is almost not valid because it's sort of a
Right.
one part question, is not whole question, is not wholeness in itself through the question. But if there is flow between the project and the community in terms of development, and that's a dynamic process which is very much alive, then most likely that's success for us. If not, it's not alive. I've subtracted an idea from this place and I'm not touching it back. It's not feeding itself.
Cool. How do we generate an indicator of that?
Iterations, which we haven't focused on, and it's important that we do.
Cool. Iterations of what?
Of the participants with their communities, of change, of transformation, of trying it and failing and then changing it and then succeeding and then over and over again.
Cool. Okay.
It's the quantity of interactions.
No, it's not the quantity. It's
What
never the
is it?
quantity. It's always the quality. It's qualitative jumps in evolution.
Okay, this is something really interesting that you're touching on, I think, Delphi. Qualitative jumps is like, there's a lot of things that are different about it, right? So somehow a lot of things have changed, and you can tell, oh, this is like a whole new level of where things are now at. Before they were dynamic here, lots have changed, but now things have jumped to a new level and now it's dynamic here.
Yeah. And if you're tracking all those changes because you're sort of holding that information through DIDs, then that can be visible and not obscure in a way. Not obscure. It will be in some let's put Abdul Rahman as an example. He's going back to his first idea was very linear. His going back to a community was a qualitative jump from what he was thinking, and that allowed for complexity to emerge.
Cool. I think it's really helpful that you've brought a tangible example. Can we expand on that?
Yeah.
Carlos, can you ask Delphi questions from a VC perspective about this example? So try to surface what are the VCs potentially in this example that Delphi is bringing.
Do you remember the example, Carlos, of Abdul Rahman?
I
don't know
remember
if you work with.
Can you
there are
say you
two
say it wasn't there?
yeah, let's go over it and
Yeah. Can you bring it alive for us, Delphi?
As much as I remember, though. Ask.
but
What is the story?
there are two Abdul Rahmans. I'm like
There are two.
It's the waste management guy.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, but okay, so why did that example come to mind for you?
For me,
Yeah.
because it was a great example and it was very innocent the way that he brought the example. That's why I like him. I like him very much.
Yeah.
He said, I was walking through my neighborhood and I realized flood was everywhere. And I think his first thought was that there was a problem with sewage and stuff like that. So he was starting to think around those lines through his own perspective.
Okay.
Then there was one day in the hackathon in Accra where there was a lot of rain happening and flood was coming in. Everything was flooding. And he had sort of something else appear for him then, and he started speaking to his community because he realized that most of the flooding also happened, or there was a link, a correlation between waste. How waste moved in his neighborhood, how people treated waste, and so on. And I've been in Ghana, and I was fucking absolutely in like shocked about how people threw a lot of the waste to the street.
Mm.
Because you can see here in Latin America, it's not everyone does the good thing, right? But it's not that amount of waste that goes to the streets. And
So,
this is lovely people. So there's nothing wrong about them. It's something about habits and education.
mm, yeah, what was really interesting for me about his journey is at some point he started to describe his project as being about shifting people's thinking about waste.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really deep. Like, that's really profound.
But not
Um,
straight individually, but systemically, which I like even
yeah.
more.
So to really highlight this example as something that we would like to see more of, can you bring to mind a project that you might have seen maybe from CATS? Because there was a lot of projects to review there, or another similar project that didn't have that quality.
Yeah.
And
And it
what
was
was
a
the,
really good project, actually. It was Morgan reached out and he sent me a project where the team was thinking to develop. His first question of that project was, do you think we need to develop the infrastructure of solar panels to prove that our project is a good project, like it's can be one of the selected ones? And it was really interesting because the project was a little bit straightforward and it wasn't really considering the circumstances of that community in the sense of sort of the money that they had and the accessibility to materials to do all of those things and so on. Although the idea was really good, which the idea is they had light energy during nighttime, not during daytime. Okay. And the team was thinking, and I think it was a thought that they had before even exploring the community, is we need to develop solar panels so we can we can support the community with light, with energy. And it wasn't really connected with the community and the potential of the community, not because the idea was bad in itself, but because it wasn't considering many very important circumstances of that community. So we went through a stakeholder pentad to see, through questions, to see what was the need for that community, the institutions, the sort of this civil society and so on. And it gave a little bit of more clarity, but I don't know how much that shift, because they had an idea and it was almost fixed already. So that could have been an amazing idea. It didn't evolve to become amazing, though.
So is the point you're making there that when they could have deepened the idea and deepened the connection with the local stakeholders, they didn't, but that didn't happen?
Yeah, because there was an idea already fixed.
So they were
Mhm.
developing it as a concept, but it wasn't connected with the ground.
Not, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there was a
Kind of-
conversation about bringing materials from abroad. And that was like, well, you can do solar panels anywhere you want, if that's the thought process that you're going through, right?
They are just filling the idea with the information they have on hand. But the idea hasn't changed.
It hasn't evolved to really touch the ground. So there's no qualitative jump there, you see?
I
And you can
see.
see that that's very visible in a way, because that's where challenges and problems start to appear, because it's not connected. It doesn't really flow from the ground up.
It's visible to you because you have this experience and perspective, but a lot of the teams will probably be thinking that this
This is
development is
an
going
amazing
great.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with
Even
AI and
evaluator.
just yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we?
But that's why we do things with regenerative principles, right?
Yeah, but now we need to encode that into the DIDS and VC system. So we need to identify where to touch on exactly so that we can
My fear about that, the only thing is usually when you say about encoding,
mm,
it becomes
mechanistic.
yeah. And I don't know how
What?
to hold
Sorry?
it mechanistic. And I don't know how to hold it in such a way that it doesn't become, because you're not gonna understand the plant through the means of mathematics. You might understand a lot of things about the plant, but not the plant itself. And this
Me
is
too.
something
Yeah.
that we tend to do over and over again.
I want to make something visible. And I'm going to use paint. And the tabs, can you give me?
Yeah.
There's
This
and
is
in terms
paint.
of yeah, in
I'm
terms
so
of
glad.
enrollment and everything, look what I'm showing you. Like, so there is a way to do this, that is having the form and the content already decide. There is another evolution of that just like having the form, but they look for the content on the system, on the neighborhood or wherever they go, and they pick the things that help create the form, you know? I think that this is what they try to do, but the form doesn't change. There is another way of like starting with a form that can give some kind of um, baseline, and that's all. and then you go to the territory and you can change the form if needed, and maybe the form that it's needed is like this, and then you fill it with information and decide decisions from the land, from the place. I'm showing this because we can, if we want to promote this kind of relationship that I think we are trying to help people engage with, we cannot have deeds and like the BCs in this way. So we cannot decide now without interaction how deeds and the BCs are going to be part of the ALJ. Because if not, we're doing what we don't want them to do, and this is going to crystallize a way of working. They know, they won't know consciously, but they will know. So I think that maybe we could think, how can we create this with the deeds? You know, how can we see a baseline that could help us work and relate? But then we need to be open to change. Maybe this, I'm sorry if I hurt you by saying this, but maybe this is not going to be part of the LAJ if we go through the process and they don't engage with it. I want to mention it, like, and I think we need to be open to that, because if not, we're just doing the same as we're telling the teams not to do. I spoke really fast, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's to see if the product actually fits the processes in the ALJ or not, and not force it if it doesn't.
But we need to create the instances, the interactions, to see if it works or if it doesn't. So I think there is like this part of the technical needs of the enrollment. But also there is like a modeling of the quality of interactions we want to hold in this process. And we need to be flexible. Like, the difficult thing for me is to create this like baseline. What's the baseline of in the enrollment process, so we can kind of connect with the teams to see if they see this as useful and needed. And I have this, like, I'll mention it. I know we won't be able to discuss this today, but yesterday I asked Carlos about mobile functions of this, and he explained that that was not part of the development process. So they would need a computer every time they want to use deeds or I did the same expression tabs. So that's something that we have to take into account, because that makes, for me, hold like a really big difference in the experience of using it. It's not the same as like you have it in an app in your cell phone and things just flow. It's different than like you have it in your computer, and so every time you want to do anything with it, you have to open your computer and whatever. You can Telegram.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of cohere what has been said, because I think we're entering into this really important space where it's very specifically what we're trying to do for this meeting. So this is great. And also it feels like this is where we move from building DIDs as like tooling and all of the project and just the whole thing to really specifically identifying how to apply it in a way that's really powerful. And what Delphi and Beard have been sharing is like very advanced in terms of facilitation and working with social dynamics, and it's a huge capability needed to translate that into something technical and to do it in a way without making it mechanistic, which just totally flattens the social dynamics. So it's a challenge to do that. But Carlos, I'm wondering if there's anything coming up for you where,
Well, I was thinking
yeah,
two things. Well, first, Delphi, as she was talking about the process that they went to, I kept thinking that maybe uh, BCs could be, in a way, translated into, instead of like the idea, like we said, like, yeah, they already had this idea, so a BC could be the idea being implemented or whatever. Maybe instead it could be like the VCs are like, I get, I don't like the word checking, but I'll use it for now. Like, during your process, what potential did you unlock or you feel you unlock for your community? And in a way, maybe that can translate into some sort of check-in for them. I mean, they can decide if to share it or not. That's also part of the idea behind VCs. Um, but like, what potential did the process you did unlock for you or and your community? And like those steps can be like a chain of VCs, you know. That's one thing that I was thinking, and the other one was, well, regarding the mobile version, the complexity rises way too much if we go
Yeah,
mobile.
I
That's a
know.
completely different world. Like,
Yeah, I know.
like
Yeah, I know.
yeah, starting from, I don't even know if Cardano wallets have like great integrations mobile, you know.
Mhm.
So that's like a first thing. Like,
yeah, yeah. And that's okay. I mean, this is
See, yeah.
just proof of concept stage. So we can allow for some things to be missing. But Carlos, on the
Mm.
first thing that you said, I wanted to highlight that is it fair to say that that's like a reflection that you're asking from them, and we would collect those regularly
yeah, yeah.
and see how their perspectives change, basically.
But the differentiator with timelining would be like, timelining is the raw data and maybe the BC is like the conclusion
Mm. But
of
do
certain
they
moments.
do they verify those learnings between each other? Because I understand that we don't want to centralize that, and they don't need to send that to us, or like, it's a question. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, let me think. I mean, I guess that's the dynamic that remains to be talked about, because I mean, they say they create they did all the process, the timelining, and they came to a certain conclusion of what is, say, the potential of the community, and they create, let's say, a VC about that, and other people can view. I mean, maybe it can be kept inside their team, and the team members can verify that BC and agree or not, because the system, allows to revoke to. So there could be like an internal, I guess, review process between them. Now, whether they want to share it to others, I guess that's up to them. Like there's a presentation layer. Maybe they don't want to share all their learnings. Maybe it's just a little part, or maybe none. But that
How
also
is
begs me a question then how it interacts with if there's a hackathon, like uh what is the criteria for seeing their progress? I mean, not in
how
a sense that there are evaluators or all that, but like I would ask, like, are BCs part of maybe some sort of evaluation process, or are
Mhm.
they not? Are they simply for the team?
If they are part of the evaluation process, we have more energy to use that. But how does this connect with what Delphi said about the shift between what I want to what the community needs? How does it like connects what we're talking about?
No, that's why I said, like, in what part of the process will BCs jump into?
Mm,
So is it already when the idea is made, or is it also
mm,
during the ideation of said, the walks around the neighborhood and all that? Like how granular, or how
yeah.
what
Mm,
information is the most important to I guess save in those records,
mm,
because in the end it's a record, like a stamp of something that was done. So it's like a question.
mm. Maybe we need to wait until we have the organizations that will be part and the profiles of people that will be part. So, and we can start with these in the registration process and see how that evolves and what are the opportunities we see for the VCs. I'm sure there are a lot of places where we can use them, but I'm lacking the relationship with the people to, like with the participants, to really understand what is possible with them.
Yeah. And can I say also something that keeps on showing up for me? Maybe there are a few things when you get into working within a new paradigm that do not have a way to be recorded or capture. And maybe we also need to be fine with it. We can maybe use something of a qualitative tool to describe the experience, but just because life is mysterious, you don't want to uncover everything. And that's fine. They can be identified though.
Yeah.
Yes. And something that I found interesting recently is in recognition of what you've just said, Delphi, then also recognize that some things are financial. And so to treat,
What do you mean?
like,
So maybe if we would
yes,
have a bit more money, it would be easier.
well, because I'm all for the abstract and the esoteric, and I'm all for it, and the mystery, yes. And then it's like, okay, well, if we're recognizing that, then let's also recognize that some things are really concrete, like moving money, sending
Yeah.
transactions. And so maybe we want to, maybe that's part of how we do apply the mechanizing, is to apply it in the financial sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what Goethe said is that in order to work with the living, you need to develop your own intuition. And in order to work with the non-living, you need to develop your reasoning. So in that sense, everything that is not alive can be understand or, work through reason.
He was definitely talking about VCs.
Exactly, about transactions.
So it's interesting then, because we do want to make it concrete, and I feel like a interesting thought exercise is to think in terms of distributing the money at the end of the exercise, and to do that as intelligently as possible. So some information is going to be used, something concrete is going to be reasoned, and money will be sent. So maybe that's where we can find a role for the DIDs, VCs.
I need to go to the PP room. Are we
We're
close or do we have half an hour more?
I think we're closed actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have time to extend, but we can wrap it up here also.
But do we need to? There's
Well,
anything.
we have another meeting of this later, no?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's try and close this out then, because I think it was a really interesting space we got into. What are people taking away from this?
I think this is at the key of the conversations that we will be having forever. For sure. But I'm happy that we are having it, because then what it means is that we are all seeing what we are seeing.
Mhm.
And then the technical aspect of Prisma is really connecting to the social aspect of Prisma. And I think that's very powerful in as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see how the products we're building align with the I guess the way things are done, and how it can have an addition, like the value we really wanted to have for the communities. So like Delphi said, having those conversations are important.
Can I upgrade my closeout question? Can we try and frame it as what is something that has something new that you have started to touch on during this call that you know needs to be clarified going forwards for your work, and why?
I just want to mention that Delphi needs to go to the bathroom and she's
Yeah.
pregnant, and this
Yeah.
is a huge question.
Okay, fine. Sorry.
I can answer fast if you want.
Thanks, Sophia.
Tubbs is really ambitious.
Yeah.
No, what I can say is that what I'm holding for my work forward is it's so interesting to get into deeds, because it's so far away from my thinking. And also it needs to be closer to the organizations that we pick, because that's a movement that it's also like an unfolding movement for Prisma. So I think I'm holding that tension between
Cool.
which is almost the same tension that I was holding when we came in, but as we're having these conversations, I can see more into the nuances of each one of those themes. And with this, I'm gonna go. Ciao.
Thanks, Delphi. Ciao.
I don't know if it answers your question. What is alive in me is like there is a relation. We have talked about the relationship of what deeds and the VCs. How can they be part of the LAJ? And I'm holding also the conversation of how the LAJ can I don't know, help evolve what we think or how we are developing deeds and the VCs. I think if not, we're again like doing an interaction that has only one part of it, you know? So I'm interested in discussing the other part of this cycle too.
Cool. Okay. Carlos, you already did a checkout, but did you want to do another one on the upgraded version? It's optional.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how to adjust but I'm thinking technical.
That's
Like how
good.
would I adjust the schemas, like the deeds structure, so that it's as flexible as possible for,
Wow.
let's say, the data that it's gonna consume. Say it's like I mentioned, like maybe there's something part of the process, maybe it's a working product, like depending on what phase it is, like what data it can consume,
Mm, mm.
to be more flexible. It's a little bit static right now.
Ooh, that's interesting. Exciting. All right, I'm gonna do mine. I'm holding, how do we create a space for all of these different perspectives to come together in a way where we can then invite our partners and all go deeper into this together, so that something really interesting and creative is produced. Yeah. Cool.
Nice.
Done. Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
for this.
Thank you. See you
Thank
later.
you. See
Ciao.
you.